So we get asked quite a bit during the beekeeping season, and I had a customer the other day that uh, was asking about mites, whether or not we treat for mites, how we treat for mites, whether we test for mites, how often we test for mites. This is probably the number one um, area that is of, in my opinion, the most importance when we start keeping bees to scale. So when you start scaling your business, when you start saying like, hey, I think I want to have 20 hives, or I want to have 40 hives, or I want to have 100 hives, it's creating a pest management plan um, that is that works. Number one, it works for you, it works for your schedule, it works for um, it's easy. It's not something that's super complicated. If it's complicated, it becomes hard, and then we don't want to do it. Difficult tasks are not something that we as human beings gravitate naturally to do. And so I think having a mite plan, a pest management control plan that works well and is easy for you to implement is the most important piece of keeping bees long term and managing them effectively. So personally, what do? I don't test. And I'll tell you why I don't test. I have a management practice and a plan that is approved for commercial apiaries. So we sell honey. We sell our products third party. We have a commercial packaging facility. It's registered with both the FDA and the state. And so we fall under a little different regulation and rules than a hobbyist or backyard beekeeper would. And so all of our products have to be EPA regulated. And so when we use oxalic acid, we have to buy it specifically for apiaries. We have to buy it specifically for the use. I can't buy generic oxalic acid. I can't buy generic formic acid. I can't necessarily mix my own products. I have to follow a very regimented schedule that allows me to make sure that the consumer of our products is safe. That we're protecting them. We're not introducing something to the hive that is not legal. So all of our stuff is applied in a manner that is regulated and documented. So that's on a commercial side. On a hobbyist side, where we work with a lot of people who, they don't want to sell their products. They use it for their own consumption, or they keep the bees because they like keeping bees. It's a little bit different. And so what we've kind of come up with is a squeeze bottle. You can get these from a restaurant supply company in your area. They've got a little squirt tab on the top. And so what we do to help people out is we will mix the oxalic acid for them with sugar. This is about a 10-to-1 oxalic acid to water ratio. And then the sugar is about a 5-to-1 ratio. You'll read a lot of different ways to apply oxalic acid, and its mode of effectiveness, I guess, is still somewhat not understood or fully understood. We know that the bees will consume the sugar solution. We know that part of that oxalic acid solution ends up in the larva as the bees are feeding it back to the brood nest. We know part of it evaporates with the water and turns into basically a powder that coats the bees and causes the mites to die, basically release off of the bee and die. And so, there's a lot of stuff that goes back into testing. Why do we not test? If I go into a hive and I find that hive has a 1.5% mite count instead of a 2% mite count, I may not be able to get back to that colony or that apiary by the time that mite count gets to 2%. And so I will treat every hive on probably a 3-month basis with oxalic acid throughout the normal course of the year, as long as honey supers aren't on. When honey supers are on, I don't treat anything. And then in the spring and in the fall, we use formic acid to treat our bees. And we just do it without question. I've never come into a colony where I don't have some sort of mite count. And if I do, if I don't have a mite count, it's because we treated kind of proactively. If I don't treat a hive, if I don't get to an apiary and I don't treat those colonies in the fall, if I don't treat them in the spring, those mites go nuts. They just do. It's a reality that we have to face as beekeepers. And so we treat. And a lot of people say, well, if you're just treating and you're not testing, aren't you going to build resistance? And actually, if you read the studies on organic compounds like formic acid and oxalic acid, there is no data to support that the bees can become resistant to those two treatments. Synthetic treatments, absolutely. And that may be another video that we do at a different point in time, the difference between organic treatments and synthetic treatments. But for our purposes, we only use organic treatments. We only treat when the supers are off, when we're not in a nectar flow. And we have a pretty good schedule of doing that. But for you guys at home, and for, backyard hobbyist beekeepers, get you an 8-ounce bottle. Put 1 tablespoon of oxalic acid in there. The rest of that's probably about a third to a half a cup of sugar in the bottom of the bottle. And we leave them dry like this. They can store, they don't go bad as long as they don't have water in them, any moisture in them. And so then you fill this up with your desired amount of water, fill it up to the top, and shake it up real well. And then you can take that and go ahead and drizzle it over the top of your frames. 1 8-ounce bottle will treat 2 deep hive bodies. If you only have a single deep, we use half a bottle for that. And you're just going to drizzle that, between each one of those frames. You're going to try and coat all of those bees with that solution. That works really well for us. Again, there's 100 ways to do this. There are probably a dozen different treatment options available on market. There are homemade remedies. There are a million different ways to do it. All I'm doing is sharing our way that we do things. I'm sharing with you guys how I work and how I feel like we're the most successful for what we do. So I hope that helps. If you have questions or comments, I love to hear from you. Put them down in the comment section. If you do it differently, share that. That's the beauty of kind of beekeeping and beekeepers. At least my standpoint is, it's only the right way till I learn something different. And so we're always navigating that space and trying to expand our horizons. And hopefully this helps you guys. Like I said, 8 ounces, 1 tablespoon oxalic acid to about a third cup of water or so, or a third cup of sugar, the rest of that 8-ounce water. So like I said, have any questions, let me know. That's kind of how we do it here at Bear Canyon. Thanks.